Hey guys, it's Maddie, and today I'll be showing you the books that I read in December. So December was kind of a rocky month for reading. Usually I read a lot of like 5-star books or 4-star books, but this month I read a lot of like 3-star and below books, which is kind of sad because that doesn't usually happen, but I don't know, I just didn't really have that good of a reading month. I feel like I've had better, but I figure sometimes there's going to be a bad reading month in there. It's just this year I haven't had a bad reading month at all, but this month I just had a really bad reading month, I feel like. So that's kind of unfortunate. So going in with the statistics of what I read this month, I read 7 books and I also read 2,888 pages. I read 4 out of the 10 books on my original December TBR, and I had 1 book not on my original TBR that I read this month. I read 1 sci-fi, 1 contemporary, 2 dystopians, 1 fantasy, 1 manga, and 1 graphic novel. I read 1 2.5-star book, 1 3-star book, 1 3.5-star book, 2 4.5-star books, and 2 5-star books. I also participated in 2 readathons this month. The first one was the Hooked on Books weekly readathon, which is a readathon hosted on Goodreads, and that took place during the 3rd through the 9th, and during that readathon I read 2 books. And I also participated in the Cramathon, which ran from the 16th to the 23rd, and I read 4 books during that readathon. So those were my statistics of what I read, and all I read 7 books, so that is just great. So I'll be showing these books in order from my least favorite book I read this month to my most favorite book I read this month. So without further ado, let's just get started. So first I have Wake by Lisa McMann. This is a book I had been really wanting to pick up for a long time, and I finally got to it during the Cramathon, which was great. But this book didn't really live up to my expectations, I feel like. This book has to do with a girl who can go into other people's dreams and she can talk to them in their dreams. She's had this curse for a while, and it's just all about her going into other people's dreams and getting involved with this one guy who she's going into his dreams, and he's kind of able to communicate her within his dream. It's a really cool concept with the whole going into other people's dreams thing. The only thing I just had a big problem with it is the way it was written, because it was written in 3rd person present tense, which at times in most books isn't that bad, but the way it was done in this book just I didn't really like it. It was written in a way that made me feel really distant from the characters, like they were just so far from me because of the way this was written, and I couldn't really get invested in them. And it also included such a huge lack of detail, which I'm someone, I've mentioned before how much I like detail in books, and this one just glossed over scenes. And I felt like this is just a really forgettable book, honestly, because it went by at such a weird pace that I just couldn't find it very memorable at all. And I also didn't really like the way the romance was played in this book. It felt like it was there just for the sake of having a romantic plot. Like, it was so underdeveloped and it just felt like it was thrown out there. So I didn't like that about it either. I think what kind of saved it for me is the ending, because the ending kept me really interested in what's going to happen next. So that being said, I think I am going to continue on with this series, and hopefully the second book will be better, just because I want to see what will happen next, because this ending was kind of like interesting. So I will pick up the second book. Hopefully it'll be better than this one, but I just had a lot of problems with this one. So it was really disappointing because I was expecting great things from it, but it just kind of let me down. Next I have It's Not You, It's Me by Carrie Cohen Hoffman, and this is another book I read during the Cramathon. This is a book I wasn't really expecting to love, and I was kind of right, because the concept of it is very generic and just sounds like it would be a very annoying book, so I don't even know why I picked it up, but I did anyway. This book is about a girl named Zoe, and her boyfriend dumps her, and so she goes on a series of events throughout this book where she's just trying to get him back. And based on that synopsis, I knew that this character was going to be very annoying, which she was. This character was insane and crazy, the things she did to try to get her boyfriend back. And oftentimes I was just like, why are you doing this? Why is it even worth it? He dumped you. He doesn't want you. Just move on. And all of her friends were telling her this too, but she was like, nope. gonna go after him and I'm gonna get him back and I'm gonna do whatever it takes to get him back. And it was just like really annoying. So yes, the main character in this book was really annoying, but I expected that going into this book, so that's why it didn't bother me that much. And overall, this was just an okay book. I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it. So it was just like alright. I wouldn't read it again, but it was okay, and some parts of it were enjoyable. I just think the main character was really annoying because she was a psycho, and I felt like she was basically just stalking her ex-boyfriend, and I'm just like, leave him alone. I feel so bad for this guy because who wants to deal with a psychotic girl like that? So yeah, this one was just okay. Wouldn't read it again, but I enjoyed it for the most part. Next book I have is The Program by Suzanne Young. This is the book I picked out of my TBR jar, so I had to read it this month, and all around it was just an okay book. This book takes place in a world where suicide among teenagers is an epidemic, so to fix this, there's this thing called The Program where they take teenagers in who are showing symptoms of wanting to kill themselves, and they get rid of all their bad memories that is making them want to kill themselves, and when they go out of the program, they are a completely new person, but they have lost all their former memories. So the main character, Sloane, has been showing the symptoms of suicide, so she's taken into the program, and she is getting her memories taken away, and she does not want that, so she's just trying to fight the system of the program throughout this book. This is another concept where I was really intrigued by, with the trying to get rid of the bad memories that is causing these teenagers to kill themselves. I think it's such a scary world, and I think that this world in this book could be very realistic in the future, which is kind of sad. So I do give props to this book with being kind of scary because I could totally see this happening in the world. There were some things I liked about it. I did like how the program was set up and how it worked. I think the world in this book was really well done and executed well. I just wasn't a huge fan of the characters in this book. Sloane was okay, but I think she was just so lovesick all the time. She has a boyfriend and she is having to get her memories taken away of him in the program. And while in the program, she's so hung up on him, and I can understand how depressing it would be to lose your boyfriend like that, but I was just waiting for her to move on. And I also didn't like the romance in this book at all, really, because going into this book, the romance was already developed, so there wasn't really any room for me to get invested in it, and the romance is so present in this book that I'd want to get more invested in it if it's going to be brought up that much. So that was kind of a problem. The only thing that kind of saved it, though, is that towards the end of this book, it does kind of develop in a way, which I won't say how because of spoilers, but that kind of saved it. So I didn't completely hate the romance, but there was just the beginning. This book, the romance just wasn't alright with me. I didn't really enjoy it. And that being said, too, I didn't like the first part of this book. This book is divided into 3 parts, and the whole first part of this book was just extremely slow and extremely boring, but it did pick up towards the second and third parts, so that was good, but I just didn't like the first part of this book at all. This one was okay. I will continue on with the sequel because I am still kind of interested in the world, and where this book left off was really interesting, but this was just an okay one. Next I have Infinity by Jess Accardo. This is a book I didn't expect to love as much as I did because it's a sci-fi book and I don't like sci-fi so much, but this one just took me by surprise. This is about a world where you are able to travel through different dimensions of Earth, which is such a cool concept. So the main character is Corey, and her father goes away, and he feels like she should be babysat because she's always causing so much trouble. So he sends 2 guys to babysit her, but in the midst of these guys staying with her, she finds out things about them that are very weird. And that's all I can really say about this book because you really got to go into this book without really knowing anything of what it's about, so I'm giving like a vague synopsis that won't give too much of the plot away, but all I can really say is that it does take place going through dual dimensions of Earth, which is so cool. I've never read that kind of concept before, and this book executed that concept so well. It was so interesting. I loved the characters in this book. They were all very interesting. They all had their own individual story, and the relationships and the romance in this book was great. The romance in this book is more present than I thought it would be. Like, it's kind of, what I have to say really that I noticed about this book is that the romance really is a big part of the plot, which I think is really cool, especially in a sci-fi book. I thought that was really interesting how the romance was handled in this book. The only small thing I have to complain about this book is that it didn't have as much traveling through different dimensions as I thought it would. It's mostly about these Corey and these two guys going after this guy who is from another dimension, who is wanting to kill certain people who did him wrong in his dimension. So I just kind of wish there was more traveling through dimensions in this book, but I heard that the second book will have more traveling through dimensions, so that's great. I just wish I could have seen more of that in this book, but other than that, I loved this book. I loved how the concept was executed, and I loved the characters, so I can't wait to read more from this series, and I'll be anxiously waiting for the second book. Next book I have is a long-awaited book that I have been wanting to read and has been on my TBR for far too long, and I finally got to it, and that is Shatter Me by Tara Mafi. This is a very well-known dystopian series that I haven't read yet, and I have been ashamed that I haven't read yet, and I finally got to the first book, which is great. This book takes place in a world where everything has gone to a mess. The sky is like a different color, and the birds don't have wings anymore. It's just a very sad world. So there's this character in this world named Juliet, and she has the power to kill anyone with her touch. When she touches someone, they will die. So because of this, she is locked away because her power is so dangerous. But then she gets this offer by the army to act as their personal weapon because she can kill people with their touch, and the army wants her to kill their enemies by touching them. So this book all around was really interesting. I think the main character is interesting because I've never read a book about a main character who could kill people with her touch, which is really scary, and I can see how that is just would make such a lonely life for this poor girl. I really liked the main character, Juliet. I liked how she has so many people who had done her wrong in this world that she was bullied by, and yet she still didn't find a reason to seek revenge. Like, if I was her, I would use my power to kill the people who did me wrong in this world, but she didn't want to kill anyone. Even though she had this power, she did not want to kill a single person, no matter if they did her wrong in the world. And I found that very admirable about her because that just proves her humility and how kind she is. And I like the other character in this book, Adam, which is the love interest in this book. He was so brave and so courageous. Throughout this book, he's trying to help Juliet feel better about herself, and he's really the only one who has shown her any kind of compassion. Not even her parents have showed her any compassion because they are ashamed that she has this power, but he's so caring toward her, and I just found their relationship super sweet. And I all around just really enjoyed this book. I can't wait to get to the rest of the books in this series. I plan to get to Unravel Me in January, so really excited to continue on with it, and really this book didn't disappoint, so that was great, and I'd highly recommend it if you haven't read it yet, especially if you're into dystopian books, because this was a good one. Next, I have a little teeny tiny book that I read for the Cramathon, which is basically a book that I just kind of read for fun, but I really enjoyed it, and that is I Am Pushin' the Cat by Clara Belton. For those of you who don't know, Pushin' is a internet cat comic, I think, who has become super popular throughout the years, and she's so cute, so cute. And this book is just basically I'd call it kind of a graphic novel slash comic book. It just has little pictures in it and stuff like that, telling about Pushin' the cat and her life, and I just think it's such a cute book. I really enjoyed it. What I liked about Pushin' is that she's the perfect example of a cat. Like, she always wants food. She is always sleeping on keyboards, sleeping on people's laps. She is always meowing in the middle of the night. And I think that just expresses a cat personality so well, which I really loved. And not only that, but she's kind of relatable to people too, because she likes to sleep on the weekends, she likes to eat on the weekends, and she likes to sleep all the time, she likes to eat junk food. It's just like she's so relatable to cats and to people, which I thought was just really cute. And overall, this book just really made me smile, really. And I got to read it in one sitting. It basically took me like 10 minutes to read. It was so quick and so easy. So really would recommend this one if you want a quick, funny, cute read, and if you like cats. I actually like Pushin so much that I got a plush of her. She's usually sitting on my bed in the back of my videos, but I forgot to put her on. So I just really love Pushin so much because I love cats, and she's just so cute and relatable, and I just felt the need to get this plushie of her because she's just so great. So yeah, I really enjoyed this book, and it's upside down, but really would recommend it if you want to read a quick book that'll make you smile. And the last book I have, which is my favorite book I read this month, is Orange, who I forget who this is by. I think it's Ichigo something. That's the author. I read this for the Cramathon, and I really enjoyed it. This book is about a girl named Naho, and she discovers that she is getting letters from her future self 10 years in the future, and these letters are telling her things that she regrets doing and not doing. And so she's trying to tell her 16-year-old self to not do this or do that so that she doesn't have to live with these regrets anymore. It's so cool. It's such a cool concept, I feel like. I really like past, present, and future books. I think they're really interesting, so I like that part about this book. And I've heard this manga series is super emotional, and I've been watching the anime to it, and it is getting very emotional. I love the anime too, and I think the manga stayed really true to the anime, which I like. So I'm really looking forward to reading the rest of this manga series in the future, and I'm also looking forward to finishing the anime series. Right now the anime series is ongoing, so I can't watch all of the episodes in one day. I can't binge watch it because it's not finished yet, so I have to wait every week for a new episode, and I'm like, I want to watch a new episode because it's so good. I would really recommend this manga series, especially really if you're into shoujo manga. Specifically, this is a good one. So this was my favorite book I read this month. I really loved it, and I can't wait to read more of the series. So that is all the books I read this month. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe down below for more bookish related videos.